links in the chat if you want to get started looking at anything or save them to look at later. Along with a link to today's slide deck if you want to follow along. And if you are new to Webex, we have a Webex participant guide that you can go to find any information you need. Okay, I see Anna cannot hear Brandon. Can everyone else hear me?
I can hear you just fine
Okay.
today.
Okay, so maybe if you want to message her.
I'm going to go ahead and whoops. Just make sure. All right, since it is 4:01, we will go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Welcome everyone to our final session of our self-care series, meeting the SEL, that's social emotional learning needs of adults, that's you, through the arts. Today we are super excited to share with you the mindful classroom. And this session should really finalize everything that you have learned and summarize it in a great way for you to then move forward and figure out how to take these into your classroom. Just to note that we are recording the webinar. We will post it to our webinar archive, and we are also live streaming to YouTube today. You can click on the bit.ly that we shared in the chat that we'll share one more time. That is the slide deck that you can follow along with or come back to later if you need to. Also, if you have a chance, you might want to grab a blank piece of paper, something to write with, and possibly something to add color, like a marker or a colored pencil. All right, and just to introduce ourselves to you quickly, most of you know us by now, but we are your arts education team. I am Sayward Grinley, your dance and visual arts consultant. Brandon, you'll hear from in just a moment. Brandon Rader is your music and theater arts consultant. And we are led by our section chief, Dr. Lori Major Carlin. She oversees social studies and arts education. I don't believe Lori is here with us today, but she is our fearless leader. And we are joined also today by a very special guest. We are super excited to have Elizabeth Peterson from the Inspired Classroom and SEAL, which stands for Social Emotional Artistic Learning. And you'll hear from Elizabeth in just a moment. We're so excited to have her with us today.
Yay.
Our agenda for today's session includes self-care for adults overview and recap, just so that if you want to go back and watch any of those sessions that we've already had, remember this is number 8 in the series and the last session. And then we'll go into the mindful classroom with Elizabeth. We'll do a little bit of reflection and be sure to stick around for your CEU information. Our webinar goals today include giving educators the tools to meet their own social emotional needs through artistic expression and creation, and exploring how the work done in these teacher-centered workshops translates into the classroom. We will also work to understand the importance of teacher self-care to create a safe and creative learning environment for our students. And really quickly, if you are watching this recording, on the next slide, we'll talk just briefly about your reflection journal. So you do not need to do this today unless you just want to and have this with you. It is a great thing to follow along with the webinar just to reflect as we're going, but we'll do most of these live. If you're watching the recording later, be sure that you make a copy of this reflection journal and you turn that in order to get credit for your CEU. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brandon to give you a little bit more background and history of this series. And you're muted, Brandon.
Thank you so much. My dog was listening to me, but all right. So here on the next slide, you'll see a familiar logo. Our predecessors created Arts Are for Life in 2014 in order for educators of the arts and the non-arts and the whole arts community, those who teach or perform in arts areas, to all come together to rekindle, reflect, reconnect, and renew their love of education and see what they could learn from one another. We thought this was a great model for teaching some self-care to our educators in North Carolina, something we know we all desperately need. So you'll see on the next slide, we have our 8 webinar series here, of which this is the very last one. I'm a cry. But if you have missed any of the other ones, good news, they are all available in our webinar archives, which we will share in the slide or in the chat in just a moment. And you can go back and watch all of them. Upon completion and submission of your reflection journal, you actually do receive CEUs that you can submit to your local LEA for possible CEUs, even if you are watching the recording. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us and we will happily answer them to the best of our ability. Without any further ado, we'd like to hand off the baton to the amazing and incomparable Elizabeth Peterson and the Inspired Classroom.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're good with sound in here. Excellent. So I just wanted to start with something good. So I would love for you guys to just put a little highlight from your day today. I'll start with mine. Should have thought of this before. Highlight of today. You know what? I'm still teaching remotely, so I'm actually in my classroom right now. And a highlight of my day was being able to eat my lunch outside in the sun. That is a fantastic, nice benefit of being home and teaching that. Oh, that's so fun. So students bringing me a dessert today. Oh, Stephanie, I love that. Excellent. Exams are progressing. Oh, yeah, it is definitely that season. And not many of us are exempt from having to do those tests for sure. Ooh, finding something that you lost a year ago. Oh, that's really great. Look at all these little highlights. I love them. First try at a ukulele lesson. Ooh, in a venti Starbucks. Oh my gosh. Clink clink. That's awesome. So we've got some good positive energy in here today, and I'm really excited that Brandon and Sayward invited me to be with you guys on your final session. So let's keep those highlights rolling in, and I'm going to continue going on with our slides. So basically, I want us to really think today about this idea of teacher-centered PD, because that is what you have been doing this entire series, whether you're able to make one, half a one, or all of them, you've been able to participate in this wonderful series of teacher-centered PD. And so what does that mean? It means that this has been built with you specifically in mind. That is rare, and you are so fortunate to be able to have that here in your state. And this is where the motto of the Inspire Classroom, which is my side business, my educational business, the motto is get inspired to be inspiring. And what that really means is part of this teacher-centered PD stuff is that you are getting something out of this personally, professionally, so that you can then be inspiring to your students. And teacher-centered is important. These are all pictures, by the way, from different teacher-centered PD that I've given through the Inspired Classroom. retreats on the beach, virtual retreats with smiley teachers. And here's what I really truly believe, that in order for us to have a student-centered classroom, your professional development must be teacher-centered. You have to feed your own soul, and you have to do things that are going to be good for yourself. And I actually just released a YouTube video this week titled "Stop Being Student-Centered." And that's what we actually have to keep in mind. We need to keep in mind that when we're doing stuff to learn for ourselves, then you definitely need to think about what's going to be good for you so that you can then in turn be good for your students. That's really what it's all about. There's so many benefits to this. We talked about inspiring yourself so you can be inspiring to your students. And what I want to really focus in on today during our session is that I want you to think about how you can take something from everything that you participate in. It might be activities that you do that you can actually use with your students. It might be a feeling that you have. It might be an experience that you actually experience. And that is all going to translate into your classroom. So that's what we're going to focus on a little bit. So you might be saying, okay, why is this girl so passionate about teacher-centered PD? So let me tell you a little bit about me. I've been teaching this, I'm finishing off my 21st year of teaching, and every single one of those years, I've been doing something with the arts, whether it was integrating the arts into my general ed classroom, or I had a stint of about 7 years where I was a middle school music teacher as well. And just always realizing how the arts can integrate with everything that my students are doing. I'm also the host of The Inspired Classroom. And if any of you are on Instagram or Facebook, if you search for The Inspired Classroom, that is my handle. Feel free to connect with me on those social media platforms. And this is where I'm able to provide courses and retreats and workshops for teachers, and how I get to come and do this for you now. So I'm really excited about that, and all the possibilities that opportunities that have come out of the Inspired Classroom for me. And the best one so far has been SEAL, and creating social, emotional, artistic learning. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about SEAL, because SEAL is actually what brought me here, because that's what we're focusing on in this entire series, is social, emotional learning with the arts. So here's what SEAL is. It's a proactive approach, so not reactive. We're being proactive with our students to explicitly teach the social emotional skills through the arts. It is a branch of arts integration because it does these 3 things that we all realize that the arts can do. Okay, so give me a thumbs up or a heck yeah in the chat if you agree with all these amazing things that the arts can do for us and for our students. First, it's naturally differentiating. The arts meet us where we are, and it pushes us and challenges us more. Ooh, I like those emojis up there. Woohoo! Those are fun. It's highly engaging. All the arts, for various reasons, they are highly engaging to all of our various senses, and really speak to all of us in different ways. And of course, they are emotionally charged. We feel through the arts. We emote through the arts. We are able to really express ourselves through the various art forms. So we take that power of the arts and we couple it with that high need of social emotional development in our students and ourselves. And that's where SEAL comes in. And if you do want to learn more about SEAL specifically, you can head over to my workshop. I have a free workshop all about that. The link is on the slide. Okay, so that would be fun to see you guys in there as well. Let's keep going. All right, so I want you to take a quick look back in your mind about all the different experiences that you may have had while you were at some of the workshops in this series. And we're going to do a quick reflect. You can do it in your notes. You can also do it in the chat. And I want you to come up with a 111 reflection. So an ACT. I like my acronyms. So one amazing experience you had, or maybe it was a learning aha, a challenge, and one thing you think you're going to try. And you may need to rack your brain a little bit. If you have your notes, you may want to look back in your notes. And even if you can only think of one of these right now, throw it up in the chat and let us know if it's an A, a C, or a T for you. And we'll be looking for those things inside the chat. All right, so while you're putting those in, I'm going to tell you some of mine because I was able to pop into some of the workshops, which I was very happy about. All right, so my A, my amazing experience. Well, I loved that first workshop where we were learning about all those small shifts from Teach Happier. And what I really took away from that was that happiness is a discipline and you need to work on it. And I think that's something that I can also kind of instill in my own students and my own kids for that matter. A challenge for me were the things where I had to be very present because let's see, the grounding workshop was a little bit of a challenge for me because my mind kind of can go everywhere. When Sayward had that I am movement, that was challenging for me, that one part of it, because I was, you know, I'm in my home, I'm in my own space, I'm getting distracted. And so, you know, it's something that also takes a lot of discipline. And my thing I want to try is this quote that came out of Brandon's workshop, a choir that breathes together, sings together. I do a lot of breathing and that kind of thing with my students, even when I'm remote. And I think that having that mindset and allowing my students to understand that as well can really help us to become a better community together. All right, so I want to see what we've got. So let's see, Roots and Leaves workshop. I love that I was able to make art and find a way to do that with my students too. Awesome. Yes, you need to do art with your students more. Good, Stephanie. Definitely going to try journaling with teachers before faculty meetings. Ooh, very good. Nice reflection time is priceless. And then being able to share that with your colleagues would be wonderful. Life, work, satisfaction. Yvonne, we are on the same page. Absolutely. That's going to come up in a couple slides too. Learning about breathing, texting someone that makes you smile. Yeah, that was a fantastic thing. Awesome. Taking time to listen to their students' problems. So there are some really great little reflections in here. I'm so glad that you guys are engaging and participating too. So that's fantastic. And of course, you can adapt this type of activity with your students. You know, I've done this instead of a 111, which is kind of nice for this type of webinar type of format. You could do a 333, a 555 if you have a little bit extra time. And of course, you can also change the labels. First things you remember, challenges, questions you have, different takeaways. And I love this one, accomplishments. It's right around this time of the year that I start to talk to my my people, whoever will listen to me, about the did list. What are the things that you have accomplished this year? So important, especially at the end of this particular year. And also your hopes. So play around with this. The quick reflect kind of takes the edge off of a long form journal type of thing. And it can really get people thinking and students thinking as well, being able to do this with your class. All right, so what kind of things does this mean? Well, I want to take us back to take something from everything. So the activities that can be pretty straightforward, right? So for example, I can see myself doing some of those grounding activities with my students. The visual art piece with being grateful. I love doing gratitude work with my students. That's so important. But then there's also the feeling that you might have. So for me, when I was having that challenging time, being in the present with myself and the workshop, what that really meant was that, I was kind of like putting myself in my students' shoes. And I think about how they are, many of them are distracted by the things that are around them, right? In the classroom or if they're at home. And so it gave me an opportunity to really see, okay, sometimes a student can't really hold their focus, right? And experiences and connecting with other people, because that is possible. So taking something from everything is really an important part of teacher-centered PD, and keeping in mind that it might not just be the activities that you can absolutely do with your students, like from the workshop straight to the classroom. It's that other stuff as well. All right, so here's where I think it was Yvonne and I are on the same page, because this is where the experiences can really start to change you. It's personal and professional, and taking care of that work life. Put it in the chat if you remember. It's not work-life balance, it's work-life satisfaction, right? And when you can get to a point, when you can get to a point where you are satisfied with the work and life that you are creating for yourself, because you do have control over that, that's when you can be happy teacher. And when you walk into your classroom or you turn on your computer and your students are greeting you, if you're that happy teacher, your students are going to grab that vibe and become happy kids as well. There's a big power in that. All right. And that's what leads to a safe and creative learning environment. If you can get that vibe in your classroom, then that's where you're creating a wonderful environment for your students. And this is a huge part of the SEAL framework that I want to just run through this with you, because SEAL is something slightly unique than just arts integration with social emotional learning. So yes, SEAL is about those integrations and integrating the various art forms with social emotional competencies. And it's also about how to bring those experiences into your classroom, whether it's embedding them into your everyday routines, which is so important because we don't need yet another thing to put in our plate, right? Or it's taking time out once a week or once a month or even once a quarter to really do something meaningful with your students, carving out that time. So we talk about how to bring SEAL into your classroom and make it effective. But it's really where it starts is with that first wave of SEAL. So there's 3 waves or phases. And the first one is the SEAL teacher mindset. And that is what we've been talking about this whole time, really taking into consideration where you are, what your understandings are, and how you can bring that positivity into your classroom and really help your students first and foremost, so that you can create amazing experiences for them in the classroom. And again, if you want to learn more about SEAL, I would love for you to join me in my workshop. That's where you can get a lot of great information about that. All right, so, whew, boy, have I been talking a lot. So give me, give me in the chat how you're doing. And if you can, whether you're sitting, you can stand up if you'd like. Let's do a quick little stretch. This is what I like to do with my students. Bring your hands back behind your ears, really stretch your shoulders. Good. And now push it towards the camera. and scoop that up and bring it back. Good. And one more time, nice deep breath in. Oh, right around your ears. I hope you're feeling a good stretch in there. Push it towards the camera, breathe out, scoop it and bring it in. If you're standing, you can do a nice little leg movements. All right. And let's carry on because we are going to get into our first activity. All right. So I've got an emotion wheel up here for us now, and I hope you can see it. If you can't see it super well, I know that Brandon's going to be dropping a link in the chat where you can grab the copy of this online. But if you can see it really well, what I want you to do is in your notes, or you can use the chat if you'd like as well, I want you to look through this emotion wheel, and I want you to look for some effective qualities in a teacher, okay? So go ahead and peer through some of those words and kind of see what pops out for you. I'm going to put some in the chat as well.
I was just going to make a note really fast that if you do click on the link from the chat, it may take you to a page that wants you to confirm that you're going out of Webex, and that is okay. You can hit that blue button.
Good. So let's keep going with those words. Oh yeah, curious, that's good, and playful. Ooh, Bridget's got a threesome here. We got confident and curious and peaceful. Oh, I like that combination. Respected and accepted. Yeah, these are great. All right. Ooh, go Anna. Fantastic. Okay, now we're going to switch our brains, and I'm going to ask you to do basically the opposite. I want you to find words that you would use to describe an ineffective teacher. Ineffective teacher. See what pops out for you on that. Yes, angry, overwhelmed. Rushed. Oh, yes. Jealous and bitter. Absolutely. Reactionary. Oh, yeah, that is so true. That's why we need to focus on the proactive approaches. Oh, resentful, isolated. Oh, gosh. Yeah, it's as if you guys know. It's as if you guys know what this is, what this is all about. Yeah, so I think we're all on the same vibe here. Absolutely. Okay, so fantastic. So if you did write some of those down, or you remember one or two that were really poignant for you, write them down or keep them in mind, okay? We're going to do something with these words. And so this is where we're going to combine a little bit of dance, movement, and a little bit of drama, and we're going to put them together. I'm going to use these words. Now, many of you may have heard of what Tableau is. Tableau is one of my in my back pocket best strategies that I can use at any moment, even online. And that is where you create a still picture with your body. And you can do this with other people too. So small groups of people or large groups of people can do this as well. And you're kind of painting a picture. You're like a still photo, a still story. Okay, so what our take is going to be is we're going to make a tableau ourselves in these words. So I'm going to ask you to pick two words, one of an ineffective teacher and then one of an effective teacher. So for example, I might do overwhelmed and eager, okay? So overwhelmed is my ineffective teacher and eager is my effective teacher. All right, so here's where I show off my theater skills and give you a quick demo. Now I'm sitting, right? I can still do this sitting. You can do this and, you know, people may or may not be watching you, and that's totally fine. And when you're thinking about Tableau, you can do small movements, focus on facial expressions, and just kind of get into it for a moment, okay? So if I were going to do first overwhelmed, and with Tableau, you want to just kind of freeze there for just 3 or 5 seconds, or as long as you want, really, but just freeze there for at least 3 to 5 seconds. And then I'm going to transition from my ineffective to effective. So I'm going to go from overwhelmed to eager. So here's my overwhelmed. And I'm going to go into my eager. All right, so what I'd love for you to do is to try this. Here are some examples if you want, if you need them. By all means, if you want to use your pair that you have chosen, please do that. And if there's someone who's daring enough to try this with us now, that would be super cool. And I'm sure Brandon and Saywood would have to take over the tech on that part.
Yeah, if anybody wants to write into the chat that they would love to share their ineffective to effective, or if they'd like to use the raise hand button, we can make that happen.
So eager. Ooh, Ellen. Excellent.
Right.
And while we're getting Ellen up on camera, yes, Bridget, absolutely. It's amazing how the energy changes from ineffective to effective. She's going from fragile to confident. That is really cool.
All right, Ellen, you are on stage.
All right, I'm gonna do the judgmental to free.
Woohoo, I love
Thank
it.
you so
Awesome
much.
job.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Ellen, for your bravery. Ooh, we got some emoji hands too. Excellent. Is there anyone else who would like to try that? We're patient. We're okay with a little bit of silence. All right. And we're willing to interrupt the next slide if that's what it takes. So if you change your mind in a couple of slides and you want to do that, that's okay, because we're actually going to stick with it for just a moment, and we're actually going to take it another level up. All right, so here's the next level. The next level is what is going on in your mind when you're in those two tableaus, okay? And you may even think of how, this is where some of the dance is going to come in. How are you going to move from one still frame to the next? Okay, so these kind of go with my overwhelmed to eager. Okay, so if I'm in my overwhelmed, I might say something like, what is this kid doing? Right? I can see that you've been there. What is this kid doing? To eager, he truly doesn't understand. I think I'm going to go help him. Just a little transition and what's going on in your mind. And if you're doing this with your students, because this is a awesome technique to do with your students. And of course, you know, middle and high schoolers, they're a little bit less have a little less tendency to want to do this type of thing, at least at first. But, you know, keep them seated, work on just facial expressions, just hand gestures, starting small. But adding this is really powerful for middle and high school students, even if they don't say it out loud or even if they just write it down. So this is huge right here. So, yeah, so is there anyone who would be willing, oh my gosh, talk about putting on the spot, anyone who's willing to try this in your Tableau, but also what are you thinking? I'm gonna check the chat, see if we missed anybody. Ooh, we've got the quotes in the chat. Awesome. So fragile and confident, you're saying I'm capable. The shift is trusting yourself. Great, Bridget. And also, if you're doing this with your students and you have a whole class of kids who are in that frozen moment, whether they're sitting at their desks or you have them standing and doing things in groups, having them think about what it is they're thinking, right, in that moment, and then just going over and just tapping them on the shoulder, and that gives them a signal that they can then say what they're thinking.
I keep thinking about the empty to thankful one that you put together and thinking about how, you know, feeling or giving into that, like, I feel so empty instead of that half full glass being refillable and being like, I can feed off of the energy of my students. You know, I can engage in this practice that I truly love, which is teaching, and like find that energy again.
Oh, I like that. Yes, absolutely. And Anna's putting some of her thoughts in here. Frightened. Why doesn't he try? I'm really worried about him. Nice. To proud. Yes, he got it. Awesome. Very good. Awesome. So hopefully this is a little bit of an activity that you can actually try, but also gets you kind of thinking and giving you this little bit of a different experience so that you can, you know, make it work for you. And think about how you can actually adapt this into your classroom. Maybe you're doing, like I would use this a lot when I would teach Ellis Island and have the students portray an immigrant and have them get into a tableau and, you know, tap them and see what it is that they're thinking. What is their character thinking? It's very powerful. All right. Excellent. And keep those things coming in the chat. Love seeing those. All right. So we are going to do another activity. Okay. So I don't know about you, but I just need to like physically separate the activities. So, yep, another one. So if you are ready, let's do this next one. And this is where we really are going to be focusing on you, but it's also an activity that you can try with your students as well. So you probably have lots of thoughts kind of going through your mind. This is the last workshop of the series, and I would love for you to have a moment to really think and just have this brainstorm of getting all your thoughts out there. I want to give you a moment to reflect back on all the things that you've participated in and just jot them down. There's a place in the reflection journal that Brandon has put together. You can use the chat if that's helpful. You can write it in your journal or on a piece of paper that you might have. I do want you to be able to refer to them later, hint, hint. So reflections, ideas, activities that you participated in, the qualities, maybe some of those qualities that you pulled from the emotion wheel, maybe the thoughts that you had were kind of significant for you to think about, any sayings that came up. So book titles that are mentioned. Okay, so things in the chat too. Everything is up for grabs. Okay, so give yourself a couple minutes to get it all out there. Awesome. So just another moment. And thank you to those who are putting some things in the chat too, because as you know, sharing ideas is going to prompt another person to have some ideas as well. That's a good one, Brandon. Awesome. All right, so as those continuing to come in, or you might be continuing to write them down for yourself, let's take a look at what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be creating a mandala, a quick mandala, okay? And I want you to kind of get your brain on about just the basic form of a mandala, okay? A circle. It can be a circle contained within a square, and it's arranged and organized around a single central point. I've done mandalas with my students, quick ones, detailed ones, ones for gratitude, ones for reflection, ones for just the color of it, the patterns of it. Mandalas, if you kind of take a little bit of a loose idea of them, can be very freeing and very creative. And so here are some examples of mandalas I've done. These are all from teachers, actually, from retreats, and a couple of these are from the virtual teacher art retreat, which is also coming up very soon. And they can be simple and they can be complex. So I really want you to kind of free your mind about what a mandala truly is, or what your ideas might be about what a mandala is. And I want you to just think about that whole idea of a central point with sections coming from it. All right, and so it's time to create. Yay, look at all of us creating in there. Gotta have some Bitmoji fun. All right, so I'm
We
gonna
didn't even warn you that we threw those in there.
I love it. Well, I mean, I threw mine in because of you guys. All right, so let's hopefully, all right, you can see my under my camera. So I have my little list here of the things that kind of just came to my mind in the few minutes that I gave myself. Some of them had directly were from the workshops. Some of them just kind of came as a branch off of some of the workshops that we had. And so now I'm going to take this and I'm going to create something with it. So you have to understand, I was a music teacher. I was not a visual arts teacher, but I don't let that stop me when it comes to allowing others to be as creative as possible when it comes to doing something visual. So I'm going to go ahead. Now I'm looking upside down, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start in my paper. So if you have your blank paper or even just the next page in your notebook, and you can start with just a center point, or you may try a little something different. I like to throw ideas at you and then see where you're going to go with them. So you may even just have a big circle and you think to yourself, what is going to be my central idea? What's going to be that most important thing? Is it going to be that I keep one thing in mind while I'm doing all of this? And basically what I want you to be able to do with this mandala is to have the opportunity to put these things here in your mandala as something that you can collect and remember all of these wonderful experiences that you have had. So I'm going to start simply by just writing them in. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you are good to go. And if you want, you can add some different colors. All right, so Brandon's gonna serenade us with some music so that we can just have a little bit of time to create. And then I would love for you to be able to share when we're done. And if you don't have a big list, or maybe you weren't at all of the workshops, or maybe you weren't even able to attend many of them at all, that's okay. I want you to think back to your professional development that has been inspiring, or maybe it hasn't, and you're going to think the opposite. Maybe you're just going to take things that are from us, our time right here, right now. But thinking about your own life, your own teaching experiences, maybe there's that one kid that really inspires you to be the best teacher that you can be. All those different things are things that you can add in here. All right. So hopefully we've got everybody covered and we can all do some great participating in this. All right, and let's do a quick check and see how people are doing. Something in the chat, one of those cute little emojis that I'm digging so much in the corner. And then, of course, if there's anyone who would like to share, yay, Ellen, anyone who would like to share what they have or share even a little bit about what that was like, a quick reflection would be fantastic. Whoops, you can put it in the chat if you would like to share.
Well, while everyone's gaining their chutzpah, I'll go ahead. Um, so I think it was
Yay.
Ophelia was talking about removing your electronics and just putting them away. And I know that I'm way too plugged in. And so then around that, I have lungs and mouths, and it says breathe over and over and over around there. In every single session, we've discussed breath and how like we just don't breathe. We don't breathe the way we're supposed to. And then it said, speak kindly to my body, speak with love. So I know that that's a big part of what Sayward was talking about, and is like a new philosophy to me instead of, oh, my poor broken body, right? So
Yes. Oh, I love
think
that.
Sandra is looking to share.
Yay, Sandra. And even if you're not done and you want to share, that is, well.
Sandra, I think you are still muted, but if you'd like to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and share.
I was just putting it on my camera. I don't know if you can see it.
It's coming, I can tell.
I was gonna say we can't, but you can go ahead and tell us about it in the meantime.
Okay, well, I just drew a circle and then a star in the middle. And then I put like on each of the areas, the star next to the circle, I put like hands because you need, hands and support from people and students and everyone, teachers. Then I put a lot of smiles because they make you happy. Hearts because you have to teach with love. And then I put like the figure for a girl and boy. Then I put a rainbow because every time I see the rainbow, it just makes me feel happy. And just like a design on the outside.
That's awesome. I love all the messages within, all the little things that you put on, all the things that
Can you
have
see it
such
now?
symbolism. No.
Oh,
I
okay.
still can't,
Well,
no.
But keep trying, and hopefully if you pop up, we will
I can put
be
it in
able
the
to
chat.
see it.
Oh,
Yeah.
sounds great.
Oh,
Oh.
now you're on. Go ahead and hold it up,
Now we
Sandra.
can see you. That
Good.
looks
Just
great.
flatten it out a little. Yes. Oh,
Nice.
wow.
I like
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
Great.
Thank you so
I think
much for
Anna-
sharing that. I love it.
Anna, did you want to share as well? If so, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sure. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try. Let me see. Can you see mine?
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. Is there anything you want to tell us about it? You did that in just that short time?
Yes, I just did it right now. Well, I just learned a lot, really, and the most important things is that I get more confidence with myself to get engaged with my students. It is hard when you are a high school teacher because it's not little kids, it's big problems with the kids. So I really, I learned to be silly and laugh with them and process the stress, but with kindness. And let them express themselves too, and they can express themselves also singing, laughing. I mean, getting the stress with me too, So I really learned a lot in these courses.
Yay. That's wonderful.
Thank you so
And
much.
I really want to encourage all of you to don't put this in a book or a notebook and file it away. This is something that can go in that sleeve of your binder, or you trim it up and glue it into your planner for next year or the end of this year. So make sure that it is out and available for you. Right. Is there anybody else that I'm not seeing who said they would be able to
So I can
share?
This is Ellen.
Yay, Ellen.
So very simple. I'll have to fill it in. My approach was thinking about the words that we did earlier, because I've had a very frustrating day. I'm an administrator, so it's like this judgment and stress, and so it's like I tried to do for every challenging word, I tried to do a positive word, and thinking about, okay, I'm going to turn all this stress into something positive. So yeah.
I love it. And isn't that a great lesson for us to remind our kids of, right? Because we can use art and we can use even just the pen and paper to turn that stress into something positive. And just to be able to get it out, that's so rewarding. All right. So it looks like I want to thank everybody who is sharing. Thank you so much in the chat. Everyone who is participating, even if we never saw your face or never saw your name pop up. I'm just so thankful that you guys were all here today and able to work through this wonderful material with us today. So I hope that we can stay in touch. You know where to find me. I love engaging with Instagram, email, you have my information. So if yeah, let's stay in touch for sure. All right, now I'm going to hand it back over to Brandon and Sayward.
Awesome, wonderful. If you want to go ahead and just continue, that'd be great. So we're gonna drop into the chat just our closing activity. And I know this whole session has really been focused on how we move from the series to the students, but just the few activities we did in this series or this session today. How can you take what we learned today and apply it to your students, whether they're high school, middle school, or elementary school students? And we'd love to see that come into the chat. And while we're doing that, we just want to point out some amazing resources that we have for you at the Department of Public Instruction. And I think,
Elizabeth, yeah, if you could go to the next slide.
I think it's actually 3 more slides.
There you go.
One more.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so oh, yep, there we go. These are SEL support documents, and all of you have them for all of your content areas. It's not just arts education who created them. There's one for social studies, there's one for ELA, for CTE, for guidance. They exist in every single subject. And these are ways for you to either address one of the competencies or one of those core competencies from Castle in an explicit lesson, or in the ways that you can change your mindset, like Elizabeth said, and integrate those into your teaching instructional practices. And so really feel free to dig into these resources as we wind down the school year, or as you're looking for some professional development, personal professional development over the summer, digging into these documents and reevaluating the ways that you can incorporate self-management or social awareness or responsible decision-making into just the simple ways that you do things in class, I think is really huge, and a lot of what we've discussed with Elizabeth. So definitely take a look at those. And then, since it is 5 o'clock, we will go ahead and drop the link to your survey into the chat here. And thank you so much for participating and being part of the series with us. We literally couldn't have done this series without your participation. So we love having you here. We please let us know. We take that last question very seriously. What do you want to see from us next? So do let us know, and we are very happy to have had you all here today.
And thank you so much to Elizabeth for being here and sharing all of her valuable information with us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And I wish all of you a good end of your school year, a relaxed full summer, and a super start to a somewhat normal next year. We'll all see.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm just going to go ahead and share out some of these amazing ideas. Thinking about classroom guidance, having an affirming quote around the strengths coming off the center image or word. That's really cool. I'm not sure, Bridget, if you meant this as like a class project. That'd be cool to make like a big wall class mandala. That would be amazing, especially if you serve an entire school. That's cool. The mandala is an activity for students to do at the beginning of a semester for their goals. That's cool because it's a great visual representation. I'm still old school. I was like, put it on the front of your notebook for that subject, which might be a computer these days, but it's great. Wonderful. Yeah, definitely share these ideas with world language CT and computer science teachers as well. Yeah, bulletin boards that you add to over time, the best. Just keep making more rings.
Yes. Oh, Anna, that's very nice.